Hey guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. Today I am going to be ranking every feature coming in Minecraft 1.21.11, also known as the Mounts of Mayhem update. So I have my tier list right here, and I also have the list of features. Now you may notice I am not ranking all the spears and all the Nautilus armors, just because it's kind of pointless. They do the same thing apart from some small minor tweaks. So I'm going to be ranking them in categories. So before we start ranking, if you do enjoy this video, do like and subscribe as it does really help out, and let's jump straight to it. The Parched is a new skeleton variant. This skeleton will not burn in daytime, and it will also shoot weakness arrows. It does also shoot slightly slower than the normal skeleton to match up with the bogged. Now as for loot tables, they don't drop anything too cool. It's mainly the same as the normal skeleton with obviously a chance of weakness arrows. And they spawn in desert biomes at nighttime. They can also spawn on the Camel husk. So I think it's cool because it does make the desert a bit more unique when exploring there. But I don't think it's anything too cool, so I think it's going to go in C tier. I definitely do like hostile mobs in the game because I like the challenge, and I also like the uniqueness. When you go to a biome, it's not always the same thing. But because it don't have any special functions or farm relations, I think it definitely does deserve C. It would have been cool if these guys dropped sand, but that is obviously not the case. The Camel Husk is a variant of the camel, but it is its own entity. This will spawn with two riders in deserts at night time. Now they work exactly the same as a normal camel, but obviously with a different texture, and they are also classed as an undead mob, so they do take damage to things like healing. They are also categorized as a hostile mob, so anything that applies to a zombie will also apply to these. Obviously they don't burn in a day though. Now once again, it's just a texture of the camel. I think it's once again cool. It's something that you can now collect. It doesn't really add the same as the Parched because the camel is already unique to the desert biomes. The texture reminds me of soul sand. If I quickly just grab a block of soul sand or soul soil, the texture does really remind me of that. I think it's going to go in C tier as well. Once again, it's not anything too unique, but it's cool to have in the game because it's variation. If you didn't like the normal camel texture, you now have a different texture you can mess with. So before this update, if you were to take a horse in a lake or an ocean, the horse would slowly sink, and you basically had to dismount and mount it very quickly to get it across. Well, now you can see the horse will float. This does also apply to mules, camels and donkeys. Although they are not that fast, it's another way to get across water with your horse. You no longer have to lead them and swim or get in a boat. And this is a very needed change. Now obviously it doesn't take away from boats or Nautilus, which we'll rank later on, but it's definitely easier now to get your horse from one side of a lake to another. And for this, I definitely think this is going to be an A tier, because before this update it was very annoying to get horses across even little rivers like this. The zombie horse is another new variant. The zombie horse will burn in daytime, as you can see, and it also is once again another undead mob. So the zombie horse follows the same rules as things like the zombies. Now if I sell it to nighttime and spawn one in, you can see this is what they look like. They can be tamed and ridden just like normal horses, and you can equip armor onto them. Equipping armor like diamond horse armor will make them not burn in daytime. So they are still useful as a mount of the day. It just requires you to put armor on them instead. Now there isn't really anything unique about them. They follow the same rules as the horse as well as undead mobs. They can be tempted with red mushrooms, but you cannot breed them. There is no such thing as a baby zombie horse, which that definitely would have boosted them up ever so slightly. They also spawn at nighttime inside of plains and savannas. I think the zombie horse is once again unique, and it's definitely going to create for some unique battles because the mob that spawns on the back does have a spear. So I think it's going to go in B tier. It would have been higher if it had some more unique properties about it, but it is literally just a undead horse. Netherite horse armor has also been implemented in this update. You can see the stats of it right here, and it is gotten from crafting diamond horse armor and a netherite smithing template with a netherite ingot in a smithing table. And you can see the texture is unique. The texture follows the bedrock edition one, and it is not just a reskin of other horse armors like diamond and iron. Now horse armor in the game isn't that useful, and I barely use it, but I think it's definitely good, and I think it's going to go in B tier, because if the player has full netherite armor and tools, it now gives another use to netherite to make sure your mounts don't die. The Nautilus is a new mob in this update. It will spawn in ocean biomes, and this is any ocean. It is a neutral mob, so it will attack the player if the player provokes it, and it attacks the player by doing a dash, which you can see right there. If we quickly just wait for a few seconds, it will dash at me again. It doesn't deal that much damage, about half a heart. It will also randomly attack pufferfish, so it is also a way to farm them, although it is very slow. Now you can also tame the Nautilus. The Nautilus can be tamed with pufferfish or buckets of pufferfish. You can see I can now equip it with a saddle, and upon jumping on it, I can open its inventory for the armor slot and saddle slot, and I also get a new effect, which is Breath of the Nautilus. This Breath of the Nautilus basically means I won't drown while I am riding the mob. You can see my bubbles are currently paused. Now the Nautilus can also dash, so if I hold my spacebar, you can see it dashes forward. This does also work in the direction you are looking, so you can also dash up and out of water. Now the Nautilus will start taking damage if it is outside of water, so you can see if I leave this one right here, after a few seconds, it will start to take damage. Now you can also equip them with armor, and armor comes in copper, iron, gold, diamond, and netherite. And the armor can be equipped on them by clicking. It can also be equipped on them by opening the inventory. And you can see this Nautilus is now taking damage. Now Nautilus can also be bred, so if you feed 2 of them pufferfish or buckets of pufferfish, you can see we will be able to breed these 2 together. And we will get a baby Nautilus, which you can see uses a slightly different texture and model. And upon killing them, they do also have a chance to drop a Nautilus shell. The chance is about 5%, with that chance being increased with looting. Now, I think the Nautilus is A tier. I definitely don't think it's S tier, and it's definitely going to be something I collect within Cyber Worlds. The Zombie Nautilus is a undead version of the Nautilus. Once again, following pretty much the same rules as the Nautilus, but it's an undead mob, so it will burn if it is outside of water. It will not take suffocation damage when it is outside of water, as you can see with this one. And also equipping armor onto them will stop them from taking damage. Now, you also cannot breed these, so if you tried to breed 2 together, they will not produce a baby, as there is no baby Zombie Nautilus. They can also be tamed and equipped with armor like the normal one. They also spawn in all ocean biomes with a drowned riding them. Now there are 2 unique things about the Zombie Nautilus. The first thing, they are 10% faster than the normal Nautilus. So if you find one of these, they do travel slightly faster. And they do also have a rare variant. This rare variant is the Coral Zombie Nautilus. This will spawn in warm ocean biomes. This one works exactly the same as the normal Zombie Nautilus. The only difference is the texture. And apart from the texture, there are no other changes with the Coral variant. I think it's just going to go in A tier. I love the uniqueness of it. I also love there is a variant. There are now 3 versions of the Nautilus you can collect. Let's quickly just cover the Nautilus armor. Now you can see the stats. We have copper 4, iron 5, gold 7, then diamond 11 and 2. And netherite 19, 3 and 1. The first 4 can be gotten in shipwreck treasure chests as well as ocean ruins, and the final one can only be crafted. Now, one thing I don't like about the Nautilus armor is the fact that it takes up the whole model. You can see right here, it takes up the whole shell, which I guess does make sense. It would have been cool to have it so it only covered a percentage. So for that reason, I think it's going to go in C tier. It definitely would have been higher if it didn't cover the whole shell, or there was an option to make it not cover it. Now the spear, once again, I'm going to be ranking in the category of spears, because ranking them all individually is kind of pointless. I will quickly just hover over them so you can see the stats for each of them. Now, what is the spear? Well, it has 2 attacks. Now, the first attack is the jab attack, and this can be produced just by clicking your left mouse key, and this will deal a low amount of damage to mobs in a radius, kind of like how your sword works, but it has a slightly longer reach. We then also have the charge attack. The charge attack has 3 phases. You can see the first phase right here is when the spear is faced upwards. The second stage is when it tilts. And the third stage is when it drops to the ground. Now, the first stage will deal damage and knockback upon running into a mob. The second and last stage won't deal any knockback, but it will deal damage. And the damage the spear deals in this charge attack depends on the movement speed of you as the player, and also the movement speed of the mob. Now, if the mob is moving away from you, it does deal 0 damage, but if you get quite a lot of speed, this does also count vertically. You can see you can deal quite a lot of damage. Now, the damage is not as much as the mace, but it definitely does compete very well with the mace. And you can see right there, I did just kill that horse. Now, the spear is a very unique weapon. Is it the best weapon in the game? No, 100% not. But is it a fun weapon to mess around with? And is it definitely going to be useful in some cases? I think so. It does work very well with mounts. So if you're riding something like a horse, it makes PvP on horses a lot more fun and a lot easier to deal with. You can also dismount mobs with the spear. If you charge at a mount with this charge attack, and you have it up in stage 1 or stage 2, you can dismount any mob riding on another mob. So this does work with players. If you charge at a player riding a horse, you can dismount that player from the horse. It does have a lot of unique abilities about it, and I think it's a very fun weapon to mess around with. I think it's going to go in A tier. It definitely could be S tier if there was some changes to it. And also it can have quite a lot of enchantments on it. Things like knockback, fire aspect, and looting. So that does also boost it up ever so slightly. We'd also have one unique enchantment with the spear, and that is lunge. Lunge comes up to levels 3, and this will basically mean you can lunge forward when you use the jab attack. It has no effect when you do the charge attack. But when you lunge forward, you'll be propelled in the direction you are looking for a few blocks. Once again, the blocks depend on a level, but it will consume hunger notches when you do this. It will consume half a hunger notch for every level of lunge you have. And I also think the lunge enchantment is very cool because it means that now if you are PvPing and you have the enchantment, you really need to think of food. And the food source does matter. If you use a food source like golden carrots, which give a lot of the hidden hunger notches called saturation, it means you can now lunge a lot more before your hunger starts to run out. So you can see I am currently dashing forward and my hunger is now starting to go. But if I get something like a raw mutton, my hunger notches will start to go down a lot quicker. As you can see, they already are. So I think the lunge enchantment is a very cool enchantment. It's definitely going to be very fun to mess around with in PvP, but also just in survival gameplay. So I think the lunge enchantment is definitely going to go in A tier as well. And I think that is my tier list. We have ranked everything on the list. And we have 3 things in C tier, 2 in B, and then 5 in A. I think that's a pretty good ranking for the features in this update. Now I quickly just want to say this is my opinion. Your boards might look totally different. But anyway, that is it for this video. In the comments, let me know what your favourite feature is in this drop and also what your least favourite feature is within this drop. And I guess I'll see you guys in another one very soon. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.